back.
And we're back.
It's July.
What? I cannot believe that June is gone already. Like, I cannot believe it.
I don't believe it.
It makes me really upset. Like, legitimately, I feel like we were just in 40-degree weather, and finally it stopped, and we're good, and it's warm.
Yeah,
and it's been so busy, and so many things have been going on, and now it's like, oh, hey, it's July, and half of your summer's gone.
Although I'm glad, some of the days have really fired up, though. But, it's post 4th of July, so.
Yeah, and I haven't been able to, like, why is the summer so busy? Like, isn't this the time we're supposed to, like, relax, take it easy, be outside?
Well, that's the problem. Everyone's being busy being outside. That's the problem.
I mean, there's that. Ugh, I need more of it, though.
But at least it's not Texas, so we don't have the killer bees.
Right?
Or the bee's knees, right?
The bee's knees. I love that. Y'all, everybody needs to start saying the bee's knees because it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's
they'll
classy.
love that in Texas.
It's catchy. I feel like they would. I feel like that's a very Texas thing. Do you think Beto O'Rourke says bee's knees? The bee's knees.
He says like Tinder and stuff, You see that?
No. What? What are you talking about?
Well, he had this whole thing where he was talking about like something about internet or something, and then he had brought up like Tinder. I think it was like on John Oliver's thing. And
I love John Oliver.
Yeah. Last week tonight, so I'm behind. But he was like saying something about Tinder, and then there's this guy in the foreground in the audience whose facial reaction was just hilarious. I mean, yeah.
Was that? I don't know which
maybe
episode.
it wasn't
was it a while
John
ago?
Oliver. If it wasn't no, it was lately. So if it wasn't John Oliver, it must have been Patriot Act. I think it was
okay. That makes sense. Okay. I love John Oliver. Oh my gosh. Last Week Tonight is
I'm sorry.
jam.
I watched between like Patriot Act, Last Week Tonight, and I Love You America Now. So it's just like Sarah Silverman's.
Oh, right. Okay.
Okay.
I have not watched that yet, but I want to.
Yeah, I'm starting way back. It's like I want to play catch up, but I know I should probably start from what's going on now and then work my way back.
Yeah.
But I tend to go like I need to go back to the first one.
Right. Speaking of the first one, I finally watched the first episode of Barry.
Nice.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I really like it. I'm very in.
Good.
Very much in.
You can kill it in an afternoon if you have the time.
Well, the problem is I am not allowed to watch it by myself because we are watching it together.
The rules have been set.
We're watching it together, which is fine, but we also watch most things together.
Rules of engagement.
Yes. And we're also currently watching Big Little Lies together, which, by the way, is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like, phenomenal.
I can't wait for season 2.
It's happening.
It is happening.
It's happening right now, and it's so good.
One behind again.
Meryl Streep, she's just mind blowing. She's brilliant.
What a cast!
Oh, absolutely. Like it's amazing.
It's like they had a ton of money or something.
Yeah, they're incredible. But so I mean, we're gradually kind of going back and forth between the two, and with all of our free time. But yeah, Barry is officially on the table being played,
but it's on the dual list, not the single list.
Exactly. I don't really have anything that I'm really allowed to watch by myself right now, except for Grey's Anatomy, because that's not something he's interested in. So I get to watch that all the time.
Nice.
And like Handmaid's Tale, the really dramatic stuff. He's not super into that, which I'm fine with because
it's fine.
I love to do my makeup and cry at the same time. Why not? I
That's
really
perfect.
do that. I do that way too often.
That's the best look.
I know, right?
Is your mascara running a little? Just put a little foundation on there. That'll cover that right up.
I should do that tutorial sometime. Just be like, and if you're crying, this is how you fix it.
Handmaiden, no.
Oh my God. Have you been watching that?
No, I just joined Hulu for the first time in a long time, so now that Disney owns it, it's actually more accessible. What do you know?
Crazy.
And it's not. Yeah.
You should everyone should watch it. Every human being should be forced to watch it, minus children, because it, like, seriously, it's relevant. Like the principles are relevant, and it's terrifying. And women need to understand what possibilities there are, and men need to understand that women are not going to allow these possibilities to happen. It's terrifying, but it's so well done. The entire cast is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. I think I have a lot to watch this summer, but then it's
but it's also summer.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're busy.
And I want to be out riding by a lake or something, or,
Yes.
I don't know.
Do you remember that one time? This is random again. When we shot that music video at the lake.
Yeah.
That was so much fun. I thought about that the other day. I was like,
back when it was called Lake Calhoun.
Yeah. Back then.
Now.
That was like when we met, wasn't it?
Pretty close, yeah.
Right around there.
Mike Dream's video, Songs on the Radio. Yep.
Which is a great song, too.
Yeah.
So, that just made it even better. Yeah. That was really cool. You guys, Alan did a really good job on that. You should go check it out.
Yeah. Made, top 10 that week on City Pages.
Right.
So there.
Yeah.
Which is weird, though, too, because it was, top 10 music videos in Twin Cities every week. It was
how many of these are happening?
They're doing this every week? Suddenly I don't feel that important anymore. Right. It's that's 10, 20, 30, 40. What? Wait a minute here.
I'm just impressed that there are that many being made here in the Twin Cities, that frequently.
That is true.
So, that's kind of cool. Interesting.
I suppose once you're done editing, you just...
Easy peasy.
It's out there. Enjoy.
No kidding.
Next.
Right.
Just like a fast food joint.
Yeah. All right, get out of here.
All right, I'm going to the drive-thru next now. Yeah. But just like our guest today, Josh, he spent some time in Texas. Yep. I have friends in Texas, Austin, right where he, I guess, filmed or whatever.
Yeah.
We'll talk about.
The things that you'll hear.
The things.
So
many things.
Yeah, Texas is interesting. I'm going to be going there next month in August. Hopefully.
Austin
to
or?
Visit. No, my boyfriend's dad and his family live down there. But it's down
Houston, San Antonio.
Past Houston.
Past Houston.
Yeah, it's on the
island?
edge of, something. But
is that Galveston?
Yes, down by there.
Yeah.
Close to there. And so we're going to go visit them, which will be a lot of fun. Because I haven't been out there. We haven't been out there in a while. And I like Texas. It's hot and it's nice.
If you're near Houston, see if you can visit NASA. That'd be cool.
Right. That would be awesome.
That's probably something I would want to see down there if I ever was in Houston. Mm-hmm. Houston, we have a problem.
You're such a dork.
Tom Hanks, come on, man.
Oh my gosh, you guys, Alan's the best. Or should I say, the bee's knees. Mm-hmm. Alan's just like, oh, no, you're dumb. Whatever. That's okay.
But the dumb, I can enjoy.
Jesus. Well, there's that. But yeah. Texas is pretty sweet. And it's really cool, hearing, everything that he did there. I would never have guessed that's where they were.
Yeah, so
it's pretty sweet.
Stay tuned to hear out a bit more.
Yeah, listen up, folks. That's true, it was.
So, welcome to the podcast today. Film in Minnesota.
Film in Minnesota, what? Hey, everybody.
I'm your host, Alan. Tracy.
I'm Rahana.
And this is Film in Minnesota. Today we have Josh Stifter from Crystal, Minnesota.
Yes, Crystal, Minnesota. Represent.
Crystal, Minnesota.
I don't know if you have an introduction for me, but it's funny that I've become the Crystal guy. On the reality show I was on, they were like, where do you want to be from? And I grew up in Coon Rapids, moved to Forest Lake, lived in Iowa for a while, lived in Wisconsin. Wow. And my wife and I bought a house in Crystal 9 years ago. And when they asked me, I was like, I guess I'm from Crystal. Let's put that down. They're like, can we put Minneapolis instead? That would make more sense. And I'm like, no, I'm from Crystal. Crystal represents.
You got really sensitive to it.
Yeah, I did. I don't know how that happened.
That's okay. You appreciate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You appreciate the crystal atmosphere.
I did, and I thought if I was from Minneapolis, everyone would be like, oh, okay, city, whatever. Crystal just sounds like suburbs. It just screams suburbs.
It does. It really does.
I remember a time I was on a set in LA, and I met someone else from Minnesota, and we started listing off, like, city names.
Yeah, right.
And the people who were listening were like, what the fuck?
Yeah, what are you
Eden
talking about?
Prairie.
Yeah,
like,
Edina,
what?
Mankato.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, you ever been to Golden Valley? It's like, what? Golden Valley? It's like, yeah, it's completely foreign, obviously.
right.
The best part is trying to like get people to guess how to say a lot of the cities in Minnesota.
Oh, yeah, there was
Because they can't do it. No one can do it.
I think there was a
Shakopee?
news anchor that moved here that they convinced that it was pronounced Mankato for forever instead of Mankato, and the dude said it for like months without knowing, and like the whole state just laughed at him the whole time.
That's phenomenal.
Excellent.
Oh my gosh.
Shakopee is a big one. If you
Yeah,
see
Shakopee
that
was a
written
tough one.
down,
Right? Yep.
I've heard it a few ways.
I feel like there was, for two things. I just talked about how my mind is going a billion different directions for no reason, so I apologize. Two things. One, you should use your GPS sometime, like in Eden Prairie or Edina or like Minnetonka or something, because it doesn't know how to pronounce any of the
None of
streets.
them.
And it's the funniest thing listening to it, like try and pronounce, because you're like, what did you just say? Like I used to live in Minnetonka, and every single time I would just start laughing because it would mispronounce like the streets that I lived on.
Tonka. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it's just off.
Like it's hilarious. And two, I swear, and I wish I remembered in detail the video that it was. I think there was a video done of like all of the Vikings players or something that aren't from Minnesota.
Yes, I've seen
trying to
this.
pronounce like some of the different cities, and there was only a couple of them that got a couple, and most of them completely failed in the most hilarious way.
Nice.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Oh, Minnesota,
Yeah.
but we love it.
Try looking for Lake Calhoun. It never comes up.
Yeah, right.
I was looking for it. I was like, oh, yeah, this is near Lake Calhoun. And it's like, what is this? I didn't ask for that. It's Bidet Makaska.
Yeah, somebody pronounced that.
Yeah. So, Josh, how long have you been doing film, would you say?
So, yeah.
What do you do, first off? Who are you?
So I'm Josh Stifter. I am a
Where were you
filmmaker
born?
from Minnesota. Crystal, should I just start the whole thing over again?
Yeah.
Rewind.
And I've been making films for forever. I did short films for years, and I got into animation as a little kid. Like my dad was a software engineer, so we had a computer at a young age. So I had some like really, really awful animation. I think it was called Animation Wizard, and it wasn't an animation software at all. It literally just played the
that sounds
frames
familiar.
that you would draw. So you could hit the play button, it would play it back at 24 or 12 frames a second or something. So I would draw pictures in Paint, in MS Paint, and then put them into this software that would play them. So at like 9, 10 years old, I was making little like South Park ripoff videos. And and before that, I would steal my family's video camera and run around with my friends and make movies. But friends weren't always around, and all I wanted to do was make movies. So that's how I got into animation. And from there, I just kind of like, instead of handing in papers for classes and stuff, I would see if I could do a video. And I would always just do videos for everything. And when I graduated high school, I debated. I actually went to school thinking I was going to be a pastor, believe it or not, and went to a private school, went into the seminary and everything. Well, I didn't technically go into the seminary, but was like signed up for it, just about ready to go. And then I was like, wow, fuck this. I'm going to go make movies. This sounds terrible.
Oh my
And
God.
so I ditched completely and went into animation. And I think like the year I graduated, maybe even before I graduated, I got a job working for Kevin Smith doing animations. It was sort of a weird. I did this contest that got me. I got like second or third place in this contest he was putting on for animation, and that got me a job doing animations for his podcast, Smodcast. So I did maybe 10 of those, which were ridiculous. Like I didn't realize at that time I wasn't I was like just out of college, didn't really have a job in animation, and was so not knowledgeable about what I should be getting paid.
Right.
And so I was making like an eighth of what I should be. I was pumping out 2-minute cartoons in a week for $1,000, which was basically making me work. I worked overnights 4 days a week, and I was working my 10 hours at that job at FedEx, and then I would come home and I would animate for 10 more hours, sleep for 4, and then send stuff up, and then my weekends were just animating from beginning to end. So I was killing myself, working like 90 hours on these animations for very, very little money.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
But it got me in the door, and it gave me the Kevin Smith name to throw out there, which got me a job and in animation, and I quickly worked my way up to being a director and producer at that job. But I always liked, I got into animation simply out of necessity, you know, not having a nice camera to film with and not having friends around to film with all the time. And as I started doing this stuff, I would do things like, we would do an animation, but I'd rent a camera, like a nice camera, like a expensive 4K camera, and this was like in the early days of 4K, and we would shoot something for the animation, like an intro sequence that we'd put animation into, but I'd find a way to weasel in live action to rent the camera on a Friday, and if you rent a camera on a Friday, you get it Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
And if you do it on a holiday, you usually don't have to return it on Monday either. So I would rent the camera for a half-day Friday, then ditch half-day and film Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and make short films with that.
Nice.
And from there, I got on Robert Rodriguez's reality show, Rebel Without a Crew, where we were able to make a feature for $1,000 or for $7,000. That was what the game was.
Which is,
And just to kind of jump the gun a little bit, I did buy a camera a few years ago, an A6300. It's like $1,000 4K camera, and I got it for when I turned 30, and I was like, this year I'm going to make a feature. I'm 30. My dream, like my bucket list is literally one thing: make a feature film. That's it. That's the only thing on my bucket list. So I turned 30, and I'm like, wow, the only thing I wanted to do before I was 30 was make a feature film, and I totally screwed the pooch on that one. So for my 31st birthday, me and 4 friends are going to go in the woods, and we're just going to make a god-awful movie, just so I can get it out of my system. You know what I mean? Like, you got to get that first one out, or you'll never do it. So I was like, let's just go do it. And we went out in the woods, we filmed for 7 days, and I got back, and I was editing the footage, and it was not a movie. It looked nice, and a lot of it made sense, but it was just, we were improvising so much of it, and I didn't have a script. We just had note cards, because I'm like, the only way we're going to get this done is if we run and gun and just make stuff up. If we're trying to memorize lines, we're never going to get it done.
Yeah.
And we went out and did that, came back, and it wasn't a movie. And I was like, man, do we finish this? What do we do? And then Rebel Without a Crew came up, just based on Robert seeing some of my shorts and liking them and wanting me to sell. I sold something to his network at a cartoon I had done, and I got on that. And like through almost accident, I ended up making a feature film with Robert Rodriguez. It just kind of happened.
That's incredible.
And then I came home, literally the last day of filming. We were wrapping up the shoot, and I turned to Daniel, who's my best friend. I've been filming with him since we were 7 years old. We started filming stuff together, and I turned to him like right as we were wrapping the movie, and I was like, dude, you know what I'm going to say. We got to do this again, right? He's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, you know what I want to do, right? He's like, yeah, the movie we failed at. I'm like, yeah. We got to do it. We got to finish it. So we came home and we started writing, and we wrote the script, and I actually just wrapped that, or I just did a test screening of that movie last Friday. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
What's it called?
It's called Greywood's Plot. The first one I made for $7,000 is called The Good Exorcist.
Okay.
And this one is called Greywood's Plot, and it's about 2 guys who get videotapes sent to them. They're cryptozoologists. I don't know if you know what that is. They like hunt for Bigfoot, or like people who try to find Bigfoot footage or whatever. So they get this videotape sent to them that basically has a letter that says, there's this land that this guy owns that has a chupacabra on it, and then has a tape of this chupacabra that looks terrible. It's obviously fake. But the one guy is like, we got to go make a documentary about this. And the other guy's like, nah, I don't want to go. So they go out to the land, and madness ensues.
When you said chupacabra, I was just thinking of South Park. and them
I don't know
hunting.
if I've seen the.
Yeah.
Oh, they hunt the.
What was it? It was like a. It was.
What was it called? I know what you're talking about. That
I forget the. But yeah,
the monster thing. That's
monster
that's
thing,
sort
yeah.
of what it's like. Is
but
like
it wasn't.
that.
It was like I think it was Cartman stuck in a suit or something. I can't
Right.
remember.
It's like one of the first episodes, I think, isn't it? That's like an old one.
Is it?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh well,
It's been a while.
maybe
don't
they did
know
another
which
one.
episode
I
you're
don't-
talking.
Yeah. I really want to see the Amazon one. I haven't seen that one yet. But anyways, so they're hunting. They're supposedly.
They're trying to make a documentary in this.
Okay.
So yeah, and yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but it's a crazy little horror comedy movie.
horror comedy. Okay,
Yeah.
there it is.
So what's your like next step with it? Like, are you going to release it to festivals, or like, can people see it now, or do they have to wait?
Yeah. What
So I did a test screening. I run a Patreon, patreon.com/Flush Studios, and I post all the behind the scenes on there. I do like every Friday I post a behind the scenes video and get into like, it's really sort of the minutia of filmmaking and like deep into ideas that a lot of people don't talk about. Usually behind the scenes are like, watch these actors act, or watch these bloopers, or watch
Yes.
like the green screen, the crazy stuff. But I get into like the more stuff like the emotional toll that filmmaking can have, like when you're in the edit
Nice.
and you're just like, I don't know if this is a good movie, I don't know if it's a bad movie, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I just really dive into that kind of the toll it takes on my family, and or the fun stuff, like the fact that we filmed sequences, like there's sequences in Greywood's plot. It was made by 4 of us. I'm the only actual filmmaker in the group, and I didn't even go to film school. I went to animation school. Nathan Strauss, who helped out on it, made this dog man mask. It's hard to explain, but there's a dog man in the movie, and it's a kind of a Frankenstein monster. And he made it himself. We've never done practical effects like that, and we did a full mold of my face, a full cast,
Wow.
and then we sculpted the dog man mask, and then made a latex mask, a rubber mask out of it. And it looks awesome, and it fits my face. The mouth moves with my mouth and everything. But there are sequences in the movie that I filmed literally by myself. I'm in the movie. I'm like the star of the movie or whatever, because I didn't act in The Good Exorcist, and being on that set and kind of feeling that pressure to get something done and pushing my actors to get something done with this one, because it was a movie that I'm like, I don't know if anyone's ever going to see this or care. I need to try acting, and I need to push myself. So I tried doing the face mold. At one point, I was covered in fake blood, naked in the woods. You never see me naked in the movie, but I was naked in my sister's backyard.
Just to see what it's like.
Yeah, well, just because honestly, at a certain point, I'm going to write a movie where I'm going to have to ask people to do some ridiculous things,
Yes.
and I want to know what that's like, how it feels to be in that position. Because I think a lot of directors don't. They go like, okay, I'm going to, have this scene where she needs to run naked through a backyard or something like that. A lot of horror movies, B horror
Right.
movies have those kind of moments, and it's like, well, if I'm going to ask someone to do ridiculous things. In fact, I wrote a script where Scarlett Moreno, who was one of the directors for Rebel Without a Crew, one of the other directors, she's an actress, and I wrote a script for her. But at a certain point in the movie, she has to be getting a tooth pulled, holding a dentist at gunpoint, and the dentist pulls out the tooth, and as he pulls out the abscessed tooth, he knocks out her front teeth, and she shoots herself in the foot. So that's a pretty ridiculous stunt to pull off. And so I was thinking about that. I'm like, man, how am I going to ask Scarlett to do that? To do this insane stunt. And so I was like, I'm going to put myself in a weird situation like that. So I covered myself in fake blood in a monster mask and ran naked through the woods.
There you go.
Wow. Okay. Well, true empathy there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think it's funny though. So many directors don't think like that. I don't think they don't
Right.
realize how much pressure you put on someone to perform, and
True.
they have people watching them. Even on a closed set, you still have a DP, a director, whatever,
Yeah.
watching this happen, and you
Yeah.
have to try to forget it. So I will say the one thing I learned is it's easy to forget that stuff. When you're naked, covered in blood with a mask on, you kind of forget that there's a camera or anything. Your mind just kind of goes into character in a cool way.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you still have the mask?
I have all of the stuff. My basement, my wife makes fun of me because my basement is basically just a shrine to all my stupid ideas.
That's awesome.
That's super funny.
Plus, when you mentioned that you have all these behind the scenes stuff, it reminded me of the documentary My Life directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, his is very introspective like that. The toll it takes on him, like after Drive. He made
Right, I've heard of it. I have not seen this though. Yeah, I know all about it, but I haven't watched it yet. And this is weird, but like the biggest inspiration for me is, have you seen American Movie?
Yeah.
American Movie, which as
the documentary.
Yeah, the documentary. Yeah, it's very like, I know it's kind of poking fun at what they're doing or whatever, but I find it super inspirational. And seeing the toll it takes on Mark Borchardt, like his family life and how it's failed because of all these projects and stuff like that. It's actually like strangely inspiring to me, or shows me like what goes into filmmaking. And seeing that,
Right.
I was like, okay, I want to do that as well and show like the not necessarily the good side of it, some of the bad, some of the great, some of the hilarious, and
Right.
what really goes into it.
And then, like, do you remember Gray State a few years back here?
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. And that said, they made a documentary about
Yep.
that. Yeah. And I saw that. So it was just kind of like, that's even darker toll it takes
Right.
on people. Yeah.
I didn't see that, but I really wanted to.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's pretty
yeah.
good.
It's
It's great.
pretty brutal. It was.
Yeah.
It's a tough watch, but
Yeah.
Oh, I
especially with
fully believe it. Right.
knowing the story and everything ahead of time, I was just
Yeah. That's why I couldn't. But
And there were
looking
moments
now-
where it was like, "Oh, this is hopeful.
I
Like,
know,
we
yeah.
can get there. We can just do it." You know,
Yep.
and yeah, we know what happens. Yeah, but that's like you said, that's stuff people don't talk about.
Yeah, and I think a lot of filmmakers, the opposite happens, where I'm also trying to show through the Patreon and through the podcast. I do a podcast with my wife every other week, and we kind of talk about being artists
What's it
and
called?
filmmaking. It's just the Flush Studios podcast.
Oh, the Flush Studios. Okay.
Yep. And that's a very it's my show. It literally is
Yeah,
just
yeah.
me talking about what it's like to be a filmmaker and have filmmakers on, and sort of I say it's almost like therapy for me to just
Yeah.
talk about what's on my mind.
Of course.
And to hear what's on other filmmakers' minds. But and then I also do another podcast called the Movie Meatloaf Podcast, where I talk with my friend Daniel we do like audio commentaries, sort of, but it's trivia and other fun stuff.
Is it like riff tracks or MST3K?
No, it's
or-
it's more like talking about how awesome movies are. Like, it's
Okay.
not riffing on them or making fun of them at all. It's more explaining how certain stunts were done, trivia about, how movies came to be, things that directors don't usually talk about, because it's so like it's so detailed, or such weird like IMDb trivia stuff,
Right.
where we go into that and then we kind of dive deep into, and we talk about how these specific movies inspired our movies, or other films, or how they inspired
Yes.
like we did Toxic Avenger for our first episode, and how that influenced so many B movies, and how it was so inspirational at the time, even though it was terrible, but in the best way.
Yeah. It's hot garbage. It really is.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, that's what we love.
We certainly do.
Of course, that's, what is that, Trauma, right?
Yep, that's Trauma. I actually just finished doing animation for the next Trauma film called Shakespeare's Shitstorm, and there's an animated sequence it's
Oh, boy.
one of the most ridiculous things I've ever made, and I'm
Is it a
very proud of
shitstorm?
it. There is a shitstorm in the movie, and not in my animations.
Yes.
But there's,
there you go.
It's Lloyd Kaufman's take on The Tempest. It's William Shakespeare's The Tempest gone the route of
Oh,
Lloyd
Lloyd.
Kaufman. Yeah, it's insane, but
Yeah.
beautiful and gross. And
He's a great
everything you
guy,
expect
though.
from Trauma. Yeah, I actually am having him on my podcast next week. Wow, that's already next week. I got to prepare my questions. So if anyone has any questions they want me to ask Lloyd, I guess this won't be out by then, probably.
Yeah, probably.
So.
No.
Yeah.
So go listen to that if you haven't. That should be out.
Yeah. Back to the future. Back to the past.
Back to the past.
You're right.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
What's
Should
that?
it be Back to the Past or Back to the Future?
That would be Back to the Past.
Yeah.
This would be, I don't know. I'm lost now.
Okay, I mean, it's the future from now, but now, in the sense of the listeners, it's actually the past.
Right.
So it's both.
Yep. I had to explain the title of Back to the Future to my 6-year-old a little bit ago, and I gave up like halfway through trying to explain. Like I did it like twice. I explained why it's called Back to the Future.
Right.
He's like, wait, but what about the? I'm like, oh, I give up. Let's just watch the movie.
Is there like a favorite like nostalgic film that you loved as a kid that you have passed on to your
Yeah, I mean, Nightmare Before Christmas is like, it's just like go-to for my family. I mean, Tim Burton is the reason why I went the animation route. And so when I graduated from high school and decided I'm not going to be a pastor, I'm going to go get into film, I was like, DV cameras still were pretty expensive, and I was a poor high school graduate.
Right.
So I knew I wasn't going to get into film, and film school just seemed not lucrative. Like I was like, if I go to film school, how do I turn that into something that I'll make money at? And even film school, when I did tour some film schools, they were very much like, what we're going to do is teach you what you let you learn what you want to do on a film set. You're not going to make a movie. You're not going to be a filmmaker. You're going to be a DP, or you're going to be a whatever, a gaffer, or whatever you're going to learn, whatever you're going to move your way into. Film school was just the first step to get onto a studio project. That's basically how they sold it to me. And I don't have any interest in working on movies. That's the funny thing. I'm not a filmmaker. I'm a storyteller. Like I have these stories that I want to tell visually, and that is what I want to do. I don't really care about like, someone just recently told me when I told them I was going to be doing Flush Studios full time, they said, oh great, this will give you a chance to get on movie sets and be a part of some movies. And I like, because I have friends who work for Marvel, I have friends who work for some big companies, and they're always like, hey, I could get you in as this or whatever. And I'm like, man, it sounds awful. Like that would kill my love of filmmaking, because I would have no say or control over the story.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's all I want to do is tell stories. And so going to film school just didn't make sense to me. Animation did, because with animation, I could learn every part of the process. With animation, I like animation because you get to be God. Like, you get to play God. You start with nothing, literally nothing on a screen or on a piece of paper. And with the first stroke, it's like, I've made something out of nothing, as opposed to a film, like directing a movie or making a movie. Like, there's so many circumstances around you that you have to work with. And while that's fun, it's not the same as that, like, oh, I can picture it in my head and now I just have to put it on there. Right. You show up to a film set and you're like, okay, well, this wall isn't the same color as I pictured it, and this is different. And you have to just deal with the situation. So I decided to go the route of animation, and because of Tim Burton, like that was, and Mike Judge. Mike Judge was another one where I was like, okay, he started with doing the Beavis and Butthead cartoons and his test animations. That got him in with Spike and Mike. What I need to do is do these animations and just throw them out wherever I can. And that's how I got into filmmaking, was literally that method of like, okay, I'm going to send it to Robert Rodriguez, or I'm going to send this to Kevin Smith, and just show them that I can do something that is not necessarily something that everyone can do. That's the beautiful thing about animation, is my style is my style. Like no one else can sit down and draw a picture like I can. So I've just honed that craft and pushed forward with that to get into filmmaking. So Nightmare Before Christmas was my long answer to this very simple question. Nightmare Before Christmas. Oh my God, he watches it year round. I mean, there's a lot of those movies that I grew up watching in the like early 90s that he's like Home Alone and Home Alone 2 are like staples in my house. We watch them year round, or they watch them year round. And because I'm an animator, I still love, I love animation because I love animation. It's just, I grew up on The Simpsons is my favorite thing ever in the world. I love The Simpsons to death. And
what do you think of the new season and the writing?
I haven't seen anything for a while.
Oh, okay.
I'm like a season 1 through 11er. Like
I was too. The most recent seasons, though, within the last 2 years, is actually a lot. Like, the writing feels like the old Simpsons again.
I did watch a few episodes of one season, and was like, I think it was last season. And I always watch the Halloween episodes, even if they suck. It's just the way it goes. You got to watch the Halloween episodes. But I just don't have time anymore. I don't watch anything.
I know.
If I watch something, it's like it's stuff with my kids. Like what I was going to say just a minute ago was I got being a fan of animation. It's awesome because I can watch animations with my kids and I still enjoy them. Like I thought Moana was a masterpiece. Like I think Moana is like it breaks the structure of Disney movies. Even its act structure is so strange. Watching it as a filmmaker, I was like, man, what bold choices they made with, you know, the hero or one of the heroes is technically the villain and the bad guy isn't even a bad guy. Like technically is the good guy. Like it's crazy. Like Maui is the bad guy of the movie without ever being like you're bad. Like it never does that. I love it. It's such an interesting, fun movie. And Coco, oh, don't even get me started on how much I loved Coco.
That was good. Geez, like, well, let's rewind for a second.
Sure.
Your first job with what? Kevin Smith?
Yeah, with Kevin Smith, the director of like Clerks and Dogma, Chasing Amy.
How did you make that connection?
It feels like forever ago. Like I was on Rebel Without a Crew 2 years ago, and that feels like literally a lifetime ago. Like I can barely remember it. But I think I got on through. Kevin did this podcast called Hollywood Babylon, and I used to listen to that, I still listen to it every once in a while. When I don't know if they do it that often though, but they did this contest where I think we had to do like an animation of Batman versus Darth Vader or something like that. And I don't remember the reason for it though. I have no idea what got them to the Batman versus Darth Vader conversation. So like 1,000 people submitted or something like that. And I wasn't going to do one. I had the day off from work, and this was like right after I graduated from college. Or I actually think I was still taking my last like couple of classes. And
what were you studying at the time?
What was I? I was
animation.
I was. I think.
All the way.
I think at the end we were kind of just doing like some final animation stuff. I mean, because when I went to school, this was in like 2000. I graduated in like 2009, and what they were really pushing for animation was video game animation. So I was doing a ton of like video game stuff, which I hate 3D. I hate doing 3D animation. Maya? Yeah, I was working in Maya primarily, a little bit in 3ds Max as well, but Maya was mostly where we had gone. 3ds Max was for a lot of the character modeling for video games. But yeah, so I did a lot of that stuff. So I think I was just kind of pissing out some final video game graphics stuff that I hated. So it was just like, what can I do to get the A and be done with it? And I didn't really care. I just did what the teachers wanted and got it done. But I had the day off. I had no classes to do, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to make this Adam West style Batman versus Darth Vader thing that's just totally, I did like my best Adam West impression. I would try it, but I don't even know how I could do it.
Go ahead.
Come on. What does Adam West sound? I don't even know what I did. I was like Darth Vader, like that kind of a thing,
yes.
Something like that. I did like on my guitar, I did like a little Batman thing.
Sweet.
And then I think it ends. I haven't seen it in years, but it ends with Batman and Darth Vader are like face to face, and all of a sudden you see this blur run around them, and the camera like pulls out, and both of their pants are down, and the Joker pops up, and he's like, "Hey, now you stinker!" Ha ha, or whatever. And it like now it looks awful to me, but it was one of my first animations that I was willing to send to someone.
Yeah.
So in hindsight, I can be like, well, and it got me third place or second place or whatever in this thing. I won a couple $100 and then got a job through that.
Nice.
So then I got called from Kevin, and he was just like, "Hey, we want to bring you on to do animations. We want to do like 2-minute animations of this. How much would it cost? This is kind of what we can pay." And I had no idea, so I threw out a number that sounded right to me and was totally wrong. But then from there, I got work on a couple of his other movies, and that paid a lot better. In fact, I got the reason why I was able to quit. I was working at FedEx at the time, and my wife was pregnant with our first kid, and she she was working full time, super pregnant. No, we might have just had the baby. Actually, I think she had just had the baby, and a tree fell on my truck and destroyed my truck. And then I got a job working on Tusk that paid really well. And so we took the insurance money and the Tusk money, and she quit her job to be a stay-at-home mom, and I basically quit my job to go find a job in animation, and I did in literally a week. Like the second there was a job that I knew about, but I never thought I was good enough for, and never thought I was prepared for. And the truth is, I would have been prepared like years before, and that's when that was like a lesson to me to just like put yourself out there. Like if you don't think you're good enough, you aren't. Like you just aren't. And so since then I just took this mentality, and back then I was like a hardcore pessimist. Everything you could ask anyone, I was like a total pessimist. And one day I woke up and I was just like, a tree fell on my truck and it paid out insurance, and I was just like, you know what, from now on I'm going to be optimistic. I did I am good enough and whatever. I looked in the mirror and
Nice.
Something smiley.
Yeah. I just totally had that moment of being like, you can do this, go for it. And I did. And coincidentally, that same thing is happening now, where I'm just like going to quit. I'm done with my job in 2 weeks. I'm going to take this on full time, and I'm just going to go for it. And already I have like amazing contract gigs lined up. I finished my first feature or my second feature just based on the pressure of knowing that was coming, and realized like, oh, you just have to do it. You just have to go for it and trust that you're going to work hard enough and you are good enough to do it. And we'll see. Worst case scenario, I fail, and I don't think I'll regret it just because at least I tried.
Right.
Because the idea of like not going for it and then never knowing is way worse. Way worse.
Well, and that's the same thing happened when I went for Rebel Without a Crew.
Yeah, tell us about that.
2 weeks before. So
how did you get first?
Just put my stuff out there. I sent Robert. I did this animation when I worked on Tusk. I met a guy named Josh Roush who was assistant to Michael Parks, and we kind of like started talking. He saw my animation and loved it, and my animation on Tusk actually ended up being cut from the movie, so it's not in the movie. Yeah, it's on the Blu-ray. It's a bonus feature. You can see it online or whatever, but it was cut from the movie. And but everyone was like, we love the animation. It's just this is probably Michael Parks' last role, and it would have taken away some of Michael Parks' performance. So they were like, basically, I think Kevin just went like, no, I got to show more Michael. He's just too good.
Yeah.
And I think another thing is the reason he wrote the animation was literally going, well, Michael is old, and I don't know if he's going to be able to do this giant monologue. So we're going to make animation just in case we can't pull it off.
Yeah.
And Michael Parks pulled it off. He's one of the greatest. He was one of the greatest actors of all time. So I got in touch with Josh. Well, actually, Josh got in touch with me and asked me if I would ever want to do an animation, and we could use Michael Parks as a voice talent on it. And so we got Michael Parks as a voice talent. We made this animation, and Michael Parks passed away, and it was the last thing he had ever done. So I was like, well, I have to send this to Robert Rodriguez, because this is he worked with Michael Parks on a bunch of movies, from Dusk Till Dawn, Kill Bill. So I sent it to his network, El Rey Network, and I also sent another cartoon because they were taking submissions for short films at the time. So I sent these 2 shorts, and I was like, I sent the other one with this mentality of like, if I send 2 things, they're more likely to see one of them. You know what I mean? Like, I got to send this because if they see, hey, this guy sent us a couple things, let's watch them. The pessimist in me was just like, there's no way they would ever watch one if I sent it. They probably get sent so much stuff that there's no way they'd ever watch it. And I got a call where they were just like, hey, so we watched both of them, and we love Other Fish, the one with Michael Parks, but it does not fit our network at all. We have nothing we can do with it. But that other one you sent, we really liked. Can we buy that from you and put it on our network? And I was like, of course. It was a throwaway cartoon that I did with a friend as like a pitch. So if I can make some money off of it, great.
Yeah.
So I went in, I did like an interview with them about that. And as I was there, I have like a briefcase that I carry everywhere. And in that briefcase, I have Robert's book. It's always with me, Rebel Without a Crew. And I read it literally every week. It's kind of gross how much I read the book. Like, it's like it is my Bible to an insane degree. I've parts memorized, I think, at certain points. But but so anyway, they saw when I opened the briefcase to get my laptop out, they're like, "Oh, Rebel Without a Crew, that's awesome!" Like I'm like, I carry it with me everywhere. And this was just the showrunner, and he said, he was like, "Hey, do you do any live action stuff?" So I told him I've done some live action stuff. I sent him this short called Stalking that I did over a weekend. And Stalking is a short film based on a joke. Every year at Christmas time, you know, when my kids are opening their stocking, I'm like, "What's in Dad's stocking?" And I pretend that it's eating me. Just, I got you guys. So I just made that into a short film for fun on a weekend. Nice. And I shot it all literally by myself. I put the camera on my kids' Hot Wheels tracks, and then used fishing line to like pull it to like do like close-ups on me and stuff like that. And
that's clever.
The A6300 has this amazing autofocus, so it was able to autofocus on me for all of these camera moves and stuff like that. So, or I would set it on a slider, and then I would put like a piece of putty into the slider track so that it would just slowly move, because the pressure from the camera would still push the putty down. But so I would film like camera moves with stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah, and so I filmed this little short all by myself, besides the last scene where my family is in it, where they walk into the room and I'm eaten on the floor all bloody, and Max goes, "I don't want to open my presents," and then the stocking burps up the wall. But so I sent that to them, and they're like, "Hey, we have this show called Rebel Without a Crew. You're obviously a rebel without a crew making this movie literally by yourself. Would you be interested in being on the show?" And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds awesome. I hate reality TV, but I guess I will be on reality TV as long as it's not as long as it's not scripted or a competition." Right. I was like, "I will not go on a competition show. I have no interest in making my art competitive at all." Mm-hmm. And so they were like, great, send us your feature script." I didn't have a feature script. I had nothing. I was like, I have my script, but it's first draft. Can I send it to you guys in 2 weeks? And they were like, "Okay, 2 weeks, you can send it to us." So I wrote The Good Exorcist in 2 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
I sat down, I laid out 40 note cards, and I started looking around the room, and I was like, I have a teddy bear. There's going to be an evil teddy bear. I started to look for things that I could fit in suitcases to bring, because I knew we weren't going to film in Minnesota. So I was like, what could I film in Austin, or what could I bring to Austin that would cost me no money?
Right.
So I wrote in a Super 8 sequence because I have a Super 8 camera. I wrote in tentacles because I'd made stop motion tentacles for a short film called Chum I did. I wrote in the whole movie is literally based around the fact that I didn't want my friend Daniel, who I knew I was going to have as the lead because I didn't want to go alone. Uh-huh. So I was like, okay, Daniel's going to play the lead. And I didn't know if I would get actors. Mm-hmm. Like, I didn't know who I was going to get if I went to Austin. Like, what were they going to do? Like, I don't know anyone there. I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm like, okay, I'll cast Daniel. Then at least I know I can have someone that I can boss around and won't leave. Because I know he won't ditch me. But anyone else, if I'm, under pressure and I'm like, I need you to act better now. I don't know what to tell you. Just do this scene. Daniel would be able to take that, and I know that. So that was just a fear. I don't direct like that at all, but it just if that was to happen, you never know what you're going to be like on reality.
The director,
TV.
Josh Stifter, has told you to act better.
Yeah, do it, man. Do it better. So I was like, okay, we got to find something that he can wear at the same outfit. Because I don't want to have to worry about continuity in costumes. I don't want to have to worry about any of that. So I'm like, you're either going to be a priest or a clown in this movie. And I was like, I don't want to do makeup on you every day. Yeah, so I'm going to go with priest. So we wrote the whole movie around the fact that we had a priest costume. And we just had, a priest costume is just a suit. So we had his suit. And then we just had to buy the thing, the little collar thing. So we bought that for like $2 on Amazon. Yeah. And then we were at the state fair. I was at the state fair and I was like drunk, of course. It's the state fair.
The Minnesota State Fair?
Yeah. Okay. So I was at the Minnesota State Fair and this guy had this huge rack of cowboy hats. And I was like, jokingly, I turned to my sister-in-law and I'm like, what if I made him a cowboy priest? And she's like, okay. She bought me the cowboy hat right there. And I was like, all right, he's a cowboy priest. And then from there, we just found like a belt
Nice.
buckle, and he got boots from Robert Rodriguez, and
wow.
cowboy boots from Robert Rodriguez, and the cowboy priest was born out of that, just
Wow.
making it up as we go. And then as we went to Austin, Daniel and I just started rewriting the script because we wrote it for Minnesota. We wrote it for a bed and breakfast. Originally, that's how The Good Exorcist was supposed to take place in a bed and breakfast, because I
Right.
grew up in a bed and breakfast, and I'm like,
Oh.
it's easy to find a bed and breakfast. Like,
Yeah.
It's one set. That makes it a super easy movie to make. And then Daniel said, as I was going there, he's like, we should change it to a ranch. We should make it on a ranch because you're in Austin, Texas. He's a cowboy. Wouldn't that be awesome? I'm like, dude, we'll never find a ranch. There's no way. And I got there, and we had to do the locations day where we had to pick out our locations from a book. Literally, they gave us 15 minutes to pick out our locations from a book. And so I'm looking through this book, and there's like one really beautiful house, but another one of the filmmakers had a movie called Grandma's House that all takes place in this one beautiful house. And I was like, oh, you take that one. I guess I'm putting mine on a ranch. Daniel was right the whole time. So I grabbed the ranch out of the book, and I shot at the ranch.
Wow.
Wow.
It's the same ranch that Pierce Brosnan's show The Sun was filmed at, and in fact, it's a show on AMC, and Pierce Brosnan is the star of it. And while we were filming, the Sun crew came in and destroyed our entire set. So if you watch if you watch The Good Exorcist, as the movie progresses, the houses start to get deteriorate. They deteriorate as the movie goes on. No one ever notices it, but if you pay attention, you can see one of the houses starts out fine, and then it just gets crummier and crummier as the movie progresses, and it kind of gives it this cool feeling of the ranch getting more and more possessed.
Yeah.
But that was not me. That was just production value out of necessity.
Wow.
I'm sorry. The fact that you brought up someone's kid comes in and ruins the house is what?
No, it's The
Is that
Sun
what you
is
said?
his. The Sun is the
Sun?
show. It's called.
Oh,
that's what the
okay,
show is
okay.
called. Is The Sun. Yeah.
Alan's just picturing this little kid coming in and
It's
tearing
what
shit down.
are you talking about? This
No, it's-
ruining your set?
No, it's Pierce Brosnan's show called The Sun on AMC.
Right.
Yeah, and so we had 25 people just tearing the place apart.
Okay. So okay. I misheard that.
That's
then.
okay.
So yeah. Good.
It's still
It worked
funny and strange altogether.
Right.
Well, the coincidental thing being my son loved to come and rip apart my set as we tried to film at my house.
Oh.
So there was a
that's
son
great.
at one point because my second movie, the entire thing was filmed at my house, my sister's backyard, and another location in a cabin out in literally a cabin out in the woods in Detroit Lakes that my cousin-in-law, his parents owned. And so we just drove up there and filmed at this gorgeous little nasty cabin.
Nice. So what do you think about filming here in Minnesota now that you've had the experience in Austin? And oh wait, before we do that, I had to mention that I do know Alejandro Montoya.
Yep.
So what was it like? I guess, did you guys ever cross paths when?
Oh yeah,
were all
Alejandro. We
working?
all the filmmakers lived in the same house together, and we all helped each other with our movies as we went. Alejandro shot overnights because he's insane.
Yeah, he is. But he's insanely good too.
Yeah, he's a super talented dude, and he, we're still friends. We've worked on stuff together, and we hung out on the set, hung out. Alejandro and I would drink on the weekends together, or we weren't supposed to be doing this. We were supposed to be there was one day where we were supposed to be sequestered from the world. That's a reality TV thing that you're supposed to be sequestered. You're not supposed to talk to each other. You're not supposed to interact with anyone except for your family. You can call your family or whatever.
Huh.
And it's it's basically a shutdown day because you're doing so much. Reality TV is a lot harder than people think.
I believe.
Being on a reality show isn't just you're not just on a reality show. You're doing photo shoots. You're doing you're spending time. A lot of times, you'll get to a location that they want to film something at, and you'll have to stand around for like 2.5 hours waiting for them to set up, and that's draining. Like there's something about just mentally having to be there and being like, can we get this done? Like I don't know what to do. You're mic'd and on film 24/7. Like it takes its toll. And so Alejandro and I, when we were sequestered, would Skype with each other. He said, I don't remember this, but I apparently, because I snuck out one day and went and bought beer from a store and came back and I don't know if I probably shouldn't be telling this, but I'm going to anyway.
Yeah, do it.
But so I bought a bunch of beer and I came back and I called Alejandro, or Alejandro called me, and he said I answered and I immediately I opened a beer, I chugged the whole thing, I threw it to the side, I opened another one and started drinking it. I don't remember this at all, but I finished 12 beers in a night that night. So,
so that's why you forgot.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes sense.
I need those shut-off days.
What kind of beer was
All work, no play. It was a local. Wherever I am, I always get the local beer, and it was a local Austin beer. I don't remember what it was though. It's something goat. I don't remember.
Was it good?
Okay.
Yeah, it was really good.
Obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
12 in a row. So, yeah, moving on from that, like comparing and contrasting, I suppose, Minnesota, Texas.
Yeah. They're super comparable because they're both very, at least the people I interact with, Minnesota has it's obviously nice. Everyone kind of likes each other, whatever. But there is like a hipster element to Minnesota that is very similar to Austin. Austin is one of those like keep Austin weird type places where the
it's
weirdos.
Like Portland.
Yeah, it's a Portland, and that's Minnesota. Minneapolis is a lot like that.
Yeah.
I've realized, like as I've gone to other places, like LA is very, very, very different, and Corpus Christi, Texas, is completely different than Austin. Like they're just totally different places. Dallas is totally different. New York, having gone to New York now, it's like as different as could possibly be.
Yeah.
There's like a certain hipsterness to New York, but it's a completely different kind. And so I found that Austin and Minnesota are very comparable. The biggest difference is that Minnesotans take things very, very seriously. Like in Austin, there's this idea of playfulness.
Yes.
Like people are doing stuff just to have fun a lot of the time, or they'll take a job and they don't treat it like a job. My cast came onto this movie and they were just so gung-ho to have fun, and they understood my process, which is very, very not the normal process. Like it's rare that you have someone like, I'll set up my lights and then just start shooting, and I'll just shoot stuff. I'll just be like, hey, you guys just act this scene out, and I'm just going to shoot different angles, and I'll get reactions and try stuff, and it's just very unprofessional in ways. But it's that run-and-gun mentality.
Yeah.
I learned a lot from the Duplass brothers, Mark and Jay Duplass. They do that sort of very run-and-gun mumblecore style. So I use a sense of mumblecore to what I do. Nice. And Minnesotans, when I start doing that, as I work with them, they're like, what is he doing? Like, why? Where's his DP? Like, what's happening? What's going on? Like, it's just very, I don't know. It's like in Minnesota here, and this is not a bad thing. It's just I think we're very, very professional here. And I think it comes from, part of it is the fact that we have to be professional because our seasons change so fast. And that is the biggest issue with working in Minnesota. I started filming Greywoods 2 years ago, and we started filming in the fall. We filmed in September. Half of the reason why we failed is because when we came home, by the time I got stuff edited in October, it started to snow that year. Like in October, all the leaves that were up in September, like we had half of the leaves were all down. Like it's just so hard. And in Greywoods, you'll see that. Like I played with the seasons. When I realized that, I was like, oh man, this movie is going to go from spring to winter, even though it only takes place over a couple days. And no one thinks about it as they watch it. But because I know that I can do that, the opening shots have blossoms on the flowers. And by the end of the movie, they're standing in the snow. Like you don't realize it as you watch it, but it has this amazing effect of grossness to it. Plus the movie's black and white. My second movie is black and white, so I get away with a ton of stuff because of that, because you can't see the colors change on the leaves. And the reason I decided to make it black and white was because of that, because I was like, then no one knows what season it is. The light is totally the same through the whole movie. the leaves changing color, it just looks like they're in a different location in the woods. These are different trees than those trees.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
That's very clever.
Very creative, yeah. So,
what was the question? Sorry, Minnesota versus Austin.
Texas.
But that's my reason why I love Minnesota. We have, like Daniel and I were talking, we have these seasons that you don't get anywhere else, and Minnesotans are used to them. We were writing the script the other day where we always have wanted to do a legit Western, like a legit spaghetti Western. And we were like, well, how can we do it but not just rip off every spaghetti Western that you've ever seen? And started thinking about Hateful Eight, started thinking about some of the other Westerns, and we were like, well, what if we... have you seen the movie Brick?
No.
Brick is
heard of that.
Brick is oh my God, who's the director? Ryan Johnson directed it. I think it was one of his first movies, or I think it was his first movie. And it's this weird, like, Western meets... It's not... you would never call it a Western except for in vibe. Like, it has this vibe that Westerns have, that, like, very quiet, subtle vibe. And it also is, like, about drugs, and it's got Joseph Gordon-Levitt is in it. Anyway, it's really fantastic movie, but we were talking about those movies, and we were like, well, what if we set a Western in Minnesota in the winter? Like, it has that Western vibe. We could do that, but we could give it a total Minnesota feeling. Like Fargo kind of has a hint of Western to it.
Yeah.
And so that's something you couldn't do really anywhere else. Minnesota, we can get away with stuff like that because we have the seasons. So we also talked about looking at Minnesota lakes, because we filmed a sequence on a lake, and we were like, this is like an alien planet. Like, if you look at this, it's just Minnesota in the winter fields look like an alien winter planet. It looks like Hoth. So I was like, we should film a monster movie, a monster alien movie here sometime. And that's something I couldn't get away with in any other place.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
you remember when, Leonardo DiCaprio talked about, like, it's hard to find winter.
It's hard to find winter in Minnesota even sometimes. Like, we have winter sequence in this, and it's like, one day it snows, then the next day we went to film and all of the snow was gone.
Yes.
And then it snowed again. We had that, like, second snow push, so we went out and filmed, and it was like 50-mile-per-hour winds with sleet that day. So in the movie, it's one of my favorite shots of the movie. But Daniel looks absolutely, like, in agony. It's because the sleet was pelting his ears so hard that they were bleeding. And we ran out there, and I didn't have that because I had the dog mask on. But my body had, like, welts from this hail and sleet.
Yeah.
But it looks amazing. Like, the shot everyone loves it, and they don't realize the face that we're making is true agony.
Yeah.
Right. So how long did it take you to film the one in Texas and then the one here in Minnesota?
The one in Texas, we filmed over 14 days.
Okay.
We shot, like, the amount we shot is debatable each day. I say it's more like a 7-day shoot because the reality show got in the way of everything. So, we had 10 hours to film. We had a 12-hour day, but the reality show took an hour to set up and an hour to break down.
Yeah.
Plus, they take a half-hour break from, like, when we go on lunch. After 6 hours, we have lunch, and they take a half-hour break from when the last person starts their break. So I had to break. So that's more like an hour break because we go on break, and then the AC has to drop footage, replace batteries, all of that stuff. So they don't go on break for another 15, 20 minutes, and then that's when their lunch starts, and we can't start filming again until they're started up. So we lose another hour, so then we're at like 9 hours. Plus every hour or so we had to do OTFs, which is like turning to the camera and being like, this has been a crazy day. I can't believe what's happening. So we had to do those things every, like...
cheesy stuff.
Yeah,
the talking heads.
Luckily, I got really good at it. Like, day 3, I realized, okay, if I work with my reality crew... I was friends with my reality crew.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my reality crew producer is in my second movie. He plays my brother. And so I got to be really good friends with him, and I learned early on, if I work with them and I'm like, okay, well, we have to move to this new location on the ranch. Daniel, you move lights and I'll OTF. And then while you OTF, I'll go do something that I would never be able to do because of union rules. That's the thing. My movie wasn't union, but the reality show was.
Right.
So, like, I couldn't climb up a ladder without an EMT on set. So I would do stuff like while he was OTFing, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to run up this ladder and change this thing that they're not going to know about. So I would go do secret things off the side. So I was rebelling against the reality show too. But
making a film, man.
yeah, but so that was 14 days, and then this one is the second movie we filmed over 3 years, basically. Yeah, so we would
what a
just
difference.
I know, I would film like pickups. I'm still filming in fact, we're going to film another scene. After I did the test screening, I was like, man, I really want one more scene here. And I realized, I can do that. I can do whatever I want. Like, I don't have to rely on anyone. So we're just going to film it. Yeah. And that's the nice thing about not having a crew, writing a script for 3 people who are all the crew of the film as well. We could just get together and hang out for another day and make this movie.
Right. That's excellent. Yeah, that's pretty much how I approach my filmmaking too. Is it's you work with what you have.
Yeah.
So, and then I think I love that little bit that M. Night Shyamalan talked about when you can just go make a movie over the weekend, with your friends and a camera. And
yeah, and that was like Robert's whole mentality too. Is like anyone can do it now. Now, I will say, there is this idea of like you could pick up your iPhone and just go shoot something. You totally can. But honing the craft makes your movies better and better and better. So many people do that. They hear that you could go make a movie with your iPhone, and they go make that movie, and then it doesn't get into film festivals or it doesn't do anything, and they get discouraged. Yeah. And I'm like, it's the opposite. Do what you can with that little iPhone movie, put it out there, and learn from it. Make 20 of those, and if you're still doing it after 20. Then give yourself an extra couple $100 and go buy a better camera, or put it on a credit card and buy something and know that you can pay it off. Play the safe game, but figure out what you're good at and build off of that. And that's what I did. And one of the reasons why I'm starting to do Flush Studios full time is because I woke up one day and realized I have one of the best studios in the state without even realizing I had it. Like, I've worked at different studios and I'm like, wow, my equipment is better than I have at work because I've just bought things over the years where instead of going on vacation, I buy a Cintiq, or instead of going on vacation, I buy an Ursa Mini or whatever. Like, I buy things that, that's the camera I shot the second movie with my A6300, which is, I recommend everyone buys an A6500. If you have $1,000, if you can get a gig and you want to be a filmmaker, it overheats. The battery's dying in about 15 minutes. It's a pain in the ass, but the footage looks great. And if you learn learning to deal with those things is so much easier than learning to deal with other things on set. So if that's the worst thing happening is your camera's battery, you need to just keep replacing it and flip batteries a little bit. I just bought like $20 batteries, like knockoff ones. They work amazing. And I've been able to shoot a feature film with that.
Did you get the Ursa Mini Pro, or is it the Ursa Mini, the first generation?
I got the Ursa Mini 4K.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Cool. Well, Josh, it's been great getting to know you here on this podcast of ours.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to come and hang out and chat with us.
Yeah, it's been fun. I like this. I when I heard about your guys' podcast, I was just like, oh, what a great idea to talk to Minnesota. Like, I do my podcast and I generally talk over Skype and I talk to people from all over the place.
Sure.
But the idea of helping pull Minnesotans together, because that's the one thing that, to kind of answer your question, going back really quickly, Minnesotans we have that Minnesota nice, but we also have this Minnesota reclusive. I don't know what that is, but there's this thing about getting out there and going to, in Austin, they throw these filmmaking get-togethers and everyone comes, and it's just everyone's there and they stay and they hang out and it's a thing. Here, it's just people like to be at home. There's a homebodiness to Minnesotans. That's not a bad thing. It just makes it really, really hard to interact. So stuff like this podcast is a way to pull people together and try to make the community a little bit better.
Right. Absolutely. And one day it could expand to more. You never know. So, yeah.
Right on. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Keep in touch. Let us know what's coming next for you. And,
Yeah, Greywood's Plot. I did a test screening on Patreon, and I'm going to do another screening in August on Patreon. And I'm just submitting to film festivals and trying to get it out there and get it seen. And who knows, but more than likely I'll just end up self-distributing it and see how I can get it seen by as many people as possible, because I just make these things so people can see my goofy stories about dogmen and cowboy priests.
That's right. And the inspiration came from Minnesota.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, for now, that's Film in Minnesota. Thanks, guys, for listening.
And we'll see you next time.